Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Julian Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Now, last week I yelled, liar, liar, pants on fire. This week, I'm sorry, I'm going to be an angry child again and say, it's your fault, jerk. Now, actually, I would never say that to anyone. You know that, Julian.
I know that.
That is not a mature way to talk. And yet somewhere on this highway of crime, someone has to stop and yell at the criminals and find the reason behind this mess. Why did they do it? Who did they hurt? How can we stop it? And how can we make sure it never happens again? So stay with us today as we do a deep dive into the tentacles of crime. Now, first, I have a quick announcement. The documentary that includes a piece of our interview has posted. You can find the link at the end of our podcast. There will also be a link for the entire Sticking to the Truth podcast that ABC News Australia taped. So you can go back and watch that, and you can see how they put it into the documentary. So, Julene, I hear you are going somewhere big today. What's going on with you?
Oh, Deb, really, it's just another day in Washington, D.C. I've got my summer dew on. The humidity is like 110% outside, and it's only 10 a.m. But talking about all these tentacles of crime, I'm not going to the D.C. jail or even the Federal Bureau of Investigations. That's just down the street from my house on Pennsylvania Avenue because I live in Washington, D.C. I think today is a visit to the White House.
Oh, wow.
You know, we do some work with Moms for America, and the current administration, President Trump, cares about what mothers think. And so we're invited often. And I think RFK Jr., his Secretary for Health and Human Services, will be there and probably have something to do with some more releasing of information on the MAHA, Make America Healthy and Great. Again, you know, they're trying to uncover disinformation and lies, which are really the foundation of crime, right? And so, you know, hopefully they are, with this MAHA movement, setting into place plans that can be transparent and help parents, you know, provide the best practices and principles to keep their children and grandchildren healthy. And, you know, that sort of information isn't always going to be popular in certain circles, you know, industries that make lots of money off of sickness and disease and pharmaceuticals and drugs and so forth. So that is where I'm going today, Deb. I will keep you posted and let you know exactly what transpired. But it's always a fun day when you get to go into the White House.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited for you. That sounds great. And I know you'll show up and they'll just say, hey, there's Julian Jackson.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, good luck, and I hope it's a great day at the White House. But for now, let's dig into this crime wave. Do you know why it's so hard to stop crime? Because the tentacles of crime are as plentiful as sugar at a circus fat lady convention. I couldn't even get it out. I was just so upset by that. But yeah.
What did you say? It's as pervasive.
I said the tentacles of crime are as plentiful as sugar at a circus fat lady convention. It just goes on and on and on. And you know how they are. They like lots of sugar and it keeps going. Well, the tentacles of crime are that way.
Yeah,
so
I fall into that category a little too often sometimes.
Me too. Anyway, let's grab a few of those tentacles. So first, you have to label the crime. And I'm just going to give you a general overview here. We have to label it since it depends on the past hurts, the lack of moral parenting, and the winds of culture, plus a few other things. It's really hard to nail down the cause in every case. But I'm currently working on a series of classes to discuss the reasons for violence in America, and I'll let you know when those post. It is a difficult subject to grasp, yet We can't find solutions without knowing how the mess started. So you have to label the crime and you have to talk about what kind of crime it is. Second, you have to find out who was hurt. If no one was hurt, is it a crime? If only one person was hurt, is it a punishable crime? Do we punish crimes that hurt the masses? Or do we need to only punish crimes that hurt individuals? How do we decide that it's bad enough to require punishment? That's a sticky wicket, isn't it? Third, you have to make sure the perpetrator can be rehabilitated. Otherwise, we only fill up our jails. And how do you rehabilitate? Because people like to throw that word around, but it doesn't happen very often. And what about those crimes that are just so disgusting that you can't imagine that person ever taking another breath? What do you do with those? Crime has always been with us, and it will probably never go away. Crime happens because of black hearts who just don't care about other people. The crimes they commit may be soft at first, and they don't hurt too much as long as the criminal doesn't run into a situation where they feel cornered. When they feel cornered, then the soft crime can become the crime of a century. Why didn't we punish soft crime and stop him from committing the crime of the century? That's a big point. So do we concentrate on those little crimes so they don't get bigger, or do we just handle the bigger ones? It's crazy to try to pull all these tentacles apart and find out how we're going to fix it. In our talk about today's show, Julene and I became interested in who is being hurt and do we want to prosecute. All those tentacles are out there, but what are we going to do with them? Julene, you and I had different opinions about the Epstein case, but just like you always do, you pulled me to your side. I felt like he paid his due when he died, and what's the point? He's dead. He's probably not with Jesus, so why not just move on? But then I thought about all his victims. And then after talking with you, I was thinking about the young lady. I think she was 23, and she committed suicide because she had been in that horrible ring of abuse for over a decade. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. And then you brought up some other points about it. And so you want to share with us about why we should take on these crimes even when it seems like the perpetrator is gone?
Well, I think we definitely cannot look the other way when the crimes are perpetuated against children, right? Our most vulnerable population, and certainly, hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe even more young girls were roped into this sex trafficking ring. They were underage, 14, 15, 16. And, we have to go after this with a vengeance, because that says something about us if we don't. And so it's interesting, Deb, his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, she was the woman that really, she was convicted a few years ago. She's been in jail of colluding with Epstein in the sexual abuse of these young girls. She would groom them. She would go find them. She, would set up these network of these young girls. And she actually was convicted and was given, I think, a 65-year sentence, but got whittled down to 20 years. And now, very interesting enough, she is coming forth saying she wants to actually speak or provide some information about what exactly went on. And you have to think, well, what is her motivation, right? Is she going to get a plea deal? Is she going to get a pardon in a few years, maybe when Trump leaves office? Who knows? But she's got to be getting something for this. And I think, she is probably going to be exposed all the multiple people that were involved here. And I was telling her I watched a documentary on her on Netflix. I mean, Netflix has a documentary on every perverse person and behavior out there. And I was a little confused by her, but oh man, Deb, she is just as evil as Epstein. And she even was in on some of the perverseness of what transpired, and was a part of some of the abuse even. And so I hope we're ready for what she might expose. Dan Bongino, who is, did I say that right? Bongino, who is the number two at the FBI under Kash Patel. He has said in recent days that he has just been shaken to the core at what they are starting to uncover. And I don't know if he was implying the Epstein case or just corruption at high levels in the government for probably decades. The immorality and degradation and sex trafficking and corruption, really. And it makes me think, a few years ago, Prince Andrew, who was the Queen of England's favorite son, her son now, King Charles. Well, Prince Andrew actually paid out a $12 million settlement to one of these young girls that were provided sex trafficked to him under the Epstein situation. And the mama, before she passed, she stripped him of all his titles, Duke of York. And so I like Queen Elizabeth, and my respect for her, may her, she rest in peace, even rises, because she did not sweep this behavior under the rug. She knew that he was a part of something wrong, and she dealt with it, and we're starting to deal with it. I mean, how many administrations have been a part of this kind of thing? Was Epstein, where did he get his money from? Was he in collusion with the government or other governments, to entrap men that would come to this island so they could ultimately blackmail them? Who knows what is going to be exposed here? But it is interesting to know that this is under Donald Trump's Department of Justice that they're going after this. So, his enemies are trying to say, well, he's trying to cover up, which is just ridiculous. I mean, it's his Department of Justice that he is allowed, go bring forth all the credible information you have, he said. And so, let's just see what will transpire when Ghislaine now testifies.
Very good. Thank you, Julene. I was just thinking while you were talking about the latest crime where, what is it, Devil's Canyon, and a man went and killed a mom and a dad who were walking with their 7 and 9-year-old. And he murdered them, the way the news says, brutally. It was a brutal, horrible murder. But he left the kids alive. And everyone wants to say, well, thank God the kids are safe. You watch your parents die like that, you're not safe. You're not in a good place. So I agree with you. Any crime that happens anywhere that any child either is in or even just sees, it changes their life forever. Yeah. And you have doomed them to a horrible life. And yeah, there's got to be payment for that. There's got to be. And then we need to find ways to help those children after that, because it's a hard road that they're on. Anyway, thank you, Julene. I agree with you. You always get me on your side, even though these are really hard topics, isn't it? One of the hardest public crimes for me is the possible involvement of Obama, Clinton, and others in the Democratic Party. They were determined to take Trump down, even if it meant hurting other people along the way. They lied about Russia because they didn't want to give up power. They caused others to lie and continue to build that lie. They protected people who supported Trump, and they cost many others their money, their homes, their saving, and their reputations. That's a lot of tentacles to deal with. But even worse is that without any remorse, they lied to me and you. They lied to the American people, and they ruined Trump's first presidency. I've been thinking about that. Where would we be financially or in the world if he had been able to move freely and to do then what he's doing now? We might not have had to suffer through a recession with Biden. And then all the embarrassment and mess for the Trump family, even making a president get a mugshot for no good reason. That collection of Democrats stole our peace of mind for 4 years. We could list a ton of tentacles from Biden's administration, starting with the auto pen or the border mess, or precious people who've been killed by illegals. And then there's the policy, the inflation, the riots, the burning of cities, the gender issue, and all that mess we had to suffer through. The point is, lives were lost, people were hurt. How do we find the right person to blame and prosecute them? And it's just like with Epstein. We got to get in there. We got to find out the facts. We got to separate out all the tentacles and then take care of it. But do we want to go through it? Honestly, Julene, it's depressing and I just want to scream and fuss. Have you got some ideas?
Oh, I know. I mean, wouldn't you rather just talk about going to the beach and getting some boardwalk fries and fudge? I mean, let's get real.
Oh, my goodness. Let's go right now.
Let's talk about that fat lady sugar convention. But, I always, when I get a little down thinking, oh, boy, we're a lost cause, I just imagine what our founding mothers and founding fathers must have thought way back in the 1700s. When things weren't looking so good in America, the Revolutionary War and the fight to establish this little fledgling country as we broke off from England. And I just go to, the beautiful wisdom that they said was struck off under the inspiration of the hand of God, right? When they said in their writings, in their quotations, that as citizens, we have to elect morally strong and virtuous people, which means we have to be that kind of person, right? To want to put that kind of person in office. And our founding fathers, they talk so much about religion and how it is an indispensable support to this kind of country that they established, where the government was going to be run by the voice of the people. So the voice of the people had to be faithful and they had to be good. And that the only way that this type of government could survive is if the people remain good and they look to God, right, to tell them what was right or wrong. And so I'm really encouraged, to be honest with you, Deb, as I go and visit the White House and sit in on some of these meetings of this current administration and listen to some of his secretaries speak, how faithful they are. And how, they wear their belief in God on their sleeve, and they talk about their children and their grandchildren and the greatness of this nation to, elevate and be an example to the entire human race. And so, these kind of people want to expose corruption and crime. And we see this. They are wanting to go after bad players that in the past have just kind of been bought off or swept under the rug, and they're going after these scandals. And so I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing. And I think, that's what we need to continue to do, is get ourselves as in tuned and aligned with God and God's law, and be in scripture and be in prayer, and be associating and supporting like-minded people, and that is how we begin to evoke the heavens to intervene and help heal the land, I believe.
You are so right. And this really helps. And also, as we begin on that spiritual prayerful thing, to pray for wisdom for us and for our leaders, because I believe that our forefathers were influenced by the Spirit of God. I believe their ideas for this country have proven to be the best in the world. And over time, other countries and individuals have tried to take us down. But it's the foundation that those men set forth that has kept us true to our original purpose for America. Everyone has the right to freedom. But unfortunately, to protect that right to freedom, there are times when we have to say no. I tell parents when I'm talking with them, no is a good word. Teach your children that no is an okay word because it keeps you safe. People won't be thrilled with it, but it has to be done. My generation used to say, my freedom ends where yours begins. I think that's why some people hate Trump. They would rather hurt other citizens than ever allow anyone to say no to them. Lately, the news I watch keeps showing drugged people on the streets of San Francisco. Democrats, socialists, communists, and just, excuse me, stupid people want to yell about freedom and say that those hurting men and women, those frightened and just shells of a human being, have the right to live in a drug stupor and stay on the streets. I think that's so mean because they never talk about the fact that those people are trapped and they don't have the ability to respond with a logical answer. So saying that they would choose that lifestyle is nuts. I'm not buying it. If I had the power to show each of those people who and what they could be without the drugs and crime, and of course promise them that getting clean would be easy, which it will not, but if I could get them to see a better life, I stake my life on it, they would choose not to be there. And so to commit them to stay on the streets is a horrible, mean, hateful act. The problem with addiction and crime in society is if we let it happen, weak people won't have the strength to resist. When those people are young and free of addiction, if we make it such an egregious thing to become an addict, or if we offer great support to never get into that kind of lifestyle, we can save a lot of people from that tragedy. I don't understand the level of I don't care in politics and in our personal lives. You can't say you want to make America a great place, a better place, and then avoid the problems of the most insignificant people. How can you stand on the streets and yell about Gaza and then refuse to have mercy on the homeless sleeping in the streets a few steps away? Now, I blame a lot of people. I blame movies and music and politicians and parents and churches and influencers for not promoting a better life, for not saying no to drugs or any other bad thing you can do. Opinions matter, and we need to stand up for that. And those people have blood on their hands when they continually push anger and frustration and, oh, it's okay to do this or to do drugs or to just be promiscuous and lie and cheat your way through life. No, it's not. If we want a better society, we have to stand for better people. We can't be soft and allow crimes, drugs, and dishonesty to take over our society. What do you think, Julene?
Yeah. Oh, you make so many good points, Deb. I mean, like almost every day you can see, young people who were not taught that there's another way besides turning to the drug or the drink or crime or violence. I mean, I just think of the young boy on Tuesday, 27, drove all the way from, Las Vegas to New York to shoot up shot 5 people, killed a police, killed a new little girl who just graduated from college. And, it makes me think he certainly was not well. And what kind of influence was he under? And even I think in your neck of the woods in Ohio this weekend, that violent racial attack where 100 people watched and filmed on their phones, a man and a wife being pummeled and knocked out, and no one thought to call the police until it was over. You're like, what kind of barbaric, war zones are our cities turning into? And you got
horrible.
Drugs and alcohol were involved here. My mom always said after midnight, nothing good is going on. Satan comes out, you get home. But, I think these were grown adults that were more interested in filming it than calling the police, and I think there's a reason why our founding fathers not only wanted knowledge taught in the school systems in 1787, the year that the Constitution was written, but they specifically said in the Northwest Ordinance they wanted religion and morality taught too. They wanted prayer in school. They wanted scripture study in school. So, when young people hit upon hard times or, are worried about a test or are worried about a situation in life, they won't turn to a life of crime or drugs or alcohol. They'll turn to God. They'll will have established a relationship and a confidence, in the divine. And they knew that it was going to be that important. If this government was going to be ruled by the voice of the people had to stay righteous, had to be tied into natural law contained in the Holy Scripture. So we teach that kind of thing in our homes. We teach that kind of things. We promote people that want to teach this kind of curriculum in the school systems, in the universities. And that's why I'm encouraged, right? I mean, President Trump is no choir boy, but he certainly is bearing witness of God and of prayer and of the Bible. And he putting those kind of people around him in his administration, particularly since he had a brush with death, with that, a few assassination attempts. And so, I think God is humbling us and bringing us to our knees and waiting to see if we'll turn our lives around and lean into him. And we see examples every day of young people or people that were not taught to handle their emotions or feelings in a helpful, appropriate way, and God's law, we know, anchors us, anchors civilizations, anchors citizens. And so I guess we have to be the change, right, Deb? We have to mirror what
Exactly. Good points. And while you were talking, you said Trump's no choir boy. He's not, but we have to understand that God moves when you respect him, whether you're Christian or not. I think God, anything that we do that is good, God is going to look down and smile on that, whether you're a Christian or not. And that's why sometimes non-Christians are blessed and we look and say, why is he getting it and I'm not? It's because he's respecting something or doing something good that God appreciates. So I think a lot of what's happening is a blessing from God on America, because Trump and his administration, whether they're choir boys and girls or not, they are respecting God in a way and promoting that to the American people. And that's great. And also, you know what? I was thinking we need to laugh more. Almost every television series revolves around murder or crime dramas. We need more Carol Burnett and Barney Fife. I think people revert to guns because that's all they see. That's all that's around them. A gun never killed anyone. A gun has no bad feelings. It doesn't look for a victim. A gun is just a piece of metal. It is the black heart of the evil man or woman behind the gun that kills people. And that's the problem. We need solutions. We don't need Miss Crockett trying to cuss at everyone. We need problem solving, not politicians that lie and cheat behind the scenes, and even ones who think a song and a dance will fix everything. We need better people. My favorite quote is from Abraham Maslow. He said, if you want a better society, you must grow better people. And I think he's right. How about you, Julene?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the greatest acts of patriotism we'll ever perform, and greatest acts of kindness and decency will be fostered within the four walls of our home, right? And that's where we, can heal ourselves. That's how we set the example for our rising generations. My mama, we wouldn't leave the house until we knelt down in prayer with her and she read a verse from the Holy Bible, and we would do the same at night. And that did something within her 9 children. It changed us and it made us the people that we are. And so, once again, we got to look in the mirror. And instead of pointing fingers and blaming people, what are we going to do to strengthen ourselves and our homes and our neighborhoods? We got to look internally, and it starts with us.
Exactly. I want to show the world the best Debbie I can be. And I think everybody should feel that way about themselves. Unfortunately, sometimes I have to swallow anger and frustration and just move on. Sometimes I don't talk back. Sometimes I give more than I planned, and sometimes I get hurt. But I keep smiling and working and trying to be a better person. I saw a news story about a person who was making fun of children who died in the flood. and another person that was happy that someone was killed. I don't want to live that way. I don't like that. I want to be my best every single day. I want to love people, and I want to show a Christ-like spirit at all times. I bought a little plaque for my refrigerator. It says, life is, you probably can't see this, but life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And I love that. How about you, Julie?
Oh, and you know what? There are going to be storms. There are going to be tsunamis. Just last night, because of the earthquake, like one of the worst, strongest earthquakes in Russia, there were these tsunami warnings, and millions of people were evacuated in Japan and Hawaii and the coast of California. So I went to bed last night, my husband and I, praying for those people. And luckily, it was downgraded to just an advisory this morning. But Mother Earth is groaning and she's reeling, and there are going to be hard days ahead, and there's going to be calamities and corruption and crimes and storms. And so we got to do what it takes to stay anchored in truth and God, anchored in hope, for whatever will come our way.
Exactly. Well, our time is coming to an end, but we want to give you a tip for today. And I hope we've put a light on the problems with crime and all that is swirling around us. I'm going to tell you a little personal things about me. We had a terrible month this month. We've had 4 relatives in the hospital, medical issues. My children had problems. Cars were breaking. Every time I picked up the phone, something was wrong. And all of it amounted to an extra $10,000 to take care of this month's problems. And where am I going to get that? And oh, Lord, are you still up there, God? That's kind of how I felt. And I cried and I yelled at him, but it's okay. He can take it. Me and him have a good relationship. I wish I could talk to my parents. All kinds of things were going on. And then a very quiet voice broke through to my heart. I'm here. It's okay. Take a breath. So I walked out on the front porch and I prayed and I called my wonderful Ron, and we sat together and talked about all the many blessings we enjoy. We laughed about the fun times and we got teary over the bad times, but somehow we felt closer and okay. We danced in the rain, knowing that together we can do anything. Today may be awful, but tomorrow is full of possibilities. So my tip for you today is to count your blessings. No matter what you're dealing with, no matter how ridiculous our country is at times, tomorrow holds the hope of a better day. So go out and dance in the rain.
Thank you, Debbie. That's so beautiful. And it's easy to get fixated on what's wrong, the tentacles of crime and corruption, and makes us mad, and we want to maybe go out and do some air punches. Hopefully not punch people. But I love, my daughter teaches yoga, and she gave this quote yesterday, and I ran upstairs just a minute ago, and I'm like, what was that quote you gave? She said, don't treat people as bad as they are. Treat them as good as you are.
I love that.
Treat them as good as you are. Don't treat them as bad as they are. Your beliefs don't make you a better person just because we claim to love Jesus and we pray. It's our behavior that makes us a better person. So let's focus on what we can control. That's us. Let's be the change. So that's my tip along with yours, Deb. Thank you so much for being here.
Julie. Thank you. That's great. I am going to remember that quote, and be sure, because I know you got little Magdalena, that you hug her, and that'll make you feel real good.
My first little baby Magdalena, she represents to me everything that's good in the world.
Oh, yeah. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again. You can ask a question or request that we dig into a specific topic by writing Debbie@debbiejansen.com. And thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen. Don't forget to look for the links to the documentary that we're in. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Shalene Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. Join us again next week. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.